naval officer and meteorologist stay in the control boat during the trials. The boat goes to the pontoon, a little less than a mile away, and the boxes are passed by hand onto the deck. Some animals are to be put ready for the first trial. The rest go into the clean compartment. All the transit boxes are stowed in the clean compartment, ready for packing up the contaminated units after the day's trials. The boxes are opened as soon as possible to give the animals fresh air. This gives you an idea of the normal bulk of gear for a day's work. While this is going on, other activities have begun. The men who are going into the dirty compartment to collect gear such as met instruments finish their dressing. We used essentially the same rig as on the harness operation. The meteorologist adjusts his anemometers, which are connected to recorders in the clean compartment. In some of the trials, anemometers were fixed also on the sampling arc, towards the higher side of the pontoon. The wind direction indicator, which we call Big Ben, is put in its socket. It has a dial which can be read from the control boat 200 yards away. Scientific officer and met man making final adjustments to Big Ben. The pontoon is now nearly fully listed. Listing began as soon as the control boat arrived. Water is pumped into the wing tanks until they're full, which takes about 25 minutes. The manholes are left open, and when the water gushes out, the pumps are turned off. The covers are then put back. The naval pontoon party was 4, 1 in charge, 1 for the pumps, and 2 for the power station. This gives you an idea of what the pontoon looks like when fully listed. While waiting for the tanks to fill, the pontoon can be swung, as I said, by adjusting the breast wires so that the wind direction is more towards the center of the arc. To get back to the other preparations, the clean compartment has been opened and boxes of animals passed down. Also the empty boxes from the animals now being put out for the first trial. In the clean compartment, the animals are stowed on racks. These animals will be used in subsequent trials. The empty transit boxes can be seen in the foreground, and some more at the far end of the compartment. He's obviously a political agitator, haranguing the rest about the rights of monkeys, though they're only paying casual attention to him. Trolleys are used to convey units to and from the more remote parts of the sampling line. The units are put on the arc in a position decided by the scientific officer and the meteorologist after studying the wind direction. The position can be finally adjusted later on by moving units, though this wasn't often necessary. We usually used an arc of little over half a radian and nearly always got a good hit. Preparations are well advanced now. the taxi boat can be seen coming round the far end of the pontoon to take off the engineer's party. It was sometimes desirable to leave the animals the wrong way round as long as possible to protect them from high wind. Temperatures were mostly about 55 Fahrenheit and wind speeds generally high. This didn't upset the monkeys at all, maybe because we kept the animal room cool. We also lost very few guinea pigs through exposure, but they had a habit of biting one another if they could reach. In earlier trials, they sometimes came back in bad shape. A slit at the back of the box to increase ventilation and drain off urine and feces made a great improvement. The pre-impingers are filled. This device divides the sampled particles, roughly speaking, into fractions above and below 4 microns diameter. Vacuum tube connections are checked and manual vacuum valves opened. Vacuum's not yet on the line. It's controlled by a master valve in the clean compartment. Preparations are now almost complete, and the pontoon party begin to go below. The naval party has left by now, and the scientific officer has a last word before going off in the control boat. The bomb has been fixed to the end of the boom. It's that little thing sticking up at the end of the sidearm. And the boom is swung out at right angles to the side of the pontoon. Looking back from the control boat as it goes upwind, we can see the boom being secured by one of its guy ropes. The lab man in charge on the pontoon has a last look round before closing the bomb isolating switch on the deck and going below. He is the last man to leave the deck. In the clean compartment, the radio man and one vet are ready. The radio man has a telephone for communication with the dirty compartment, radio for talking with the control boat, and controls for firing the bomb and turning the vacuum on. The vacuum gauge, showing the state of the 500 cubic foot vacuum tank. Also, gauge and regulating valve for low-pressure air, led to the end of the boom for spray trials. The last man into the dirty compartment checks the closing of the hatch and goes to phone the clean compartment. These hatches, by the way, gave some trouble, being awkward to handle and requiring a lot of care to ensure airtightness. The radio man gets the call from the dirty compartment saying that they're closed down and ready for the trial. So he goes and calls the control boat by radio to tell the scientific officer that the pontoon is ready. And then he waits for instruction. The scientific officer receives the call and gets ready. A flag is displayed in the control boat to ask Ben Lomond for permission to carry on. The range safety is controlled by Ben Lomond. The all clear is given by hoisting a pennant. The scientific officer tells the pontoon control to stand by, and he waits with his hand on the vacuum control valve. He orders vacuum on and watches Big Ben closely, and when the wind direction is right, usually within a quarter of a minute, orders fire. Watch the middle of the near side of the pontoon there. You can see the bomb burst and the cloud passing over the arc. The scientific officer watches its passage carefully so that he can help the lab assessment. And when it's passed, he gives the order, vacuum off. Met readings are taken in the control boat. Wet and dry bulb temperatures and sea temperatures were recorded. it wasn't practicable to take air temperature gradient measurements. In the pontoon, the vet in the clean compartment notes the readings of the anemometers that we saw earlier. There was also an instantaneous wind speed indicator here, so that the control boat could call up at any time and find the actual wind speed over the pontoon. The vet and radio man will shortly be busy passing up animals for the next trial. All these film shots, by the way, were taken during actual hot trials. The radio man has given the all clear to the dirty compartment, and the 5 men in there go up to remove the first layout and to fix the second one. The control boat can, of course, order a new position if the wind has changed. Units from the ark are stacked ready to go down into the dirty compartment. Where the animals that have been exposed are stowed in racks. The liquid samples in the impingers and pre-impingers are transferred to labelled screw cap bottles for return to the lab. This is conveniently done by 2 men working together and helped by a third who brings the sampling units. Meanwhile, the hatch of the clean compartment is decontaminated and opened from above, and the clean units are passed up. No, not monkeys first. He wants guinea pigs. The vet stands on the platform, and the radio man ferries the units. A fresh ark is ready. If all goes well, it's about 20 minutes between firing one bomb and the next. The boom is pulled in to fix a new bomb, and in due course the bomb is fired. If this is the last trial of the day, samples are conveniently bottled on deck, like this, instead of in the dirty compartment below. All that remains is to clear up and decontaminate the pontoon, and for the men to change into clean rig. Dirty gear is stowed in the dirty compartment. Anemometers in their box, and then Big Ben. The vacuum nipples on the bassoons, as we call them, are covered, and the manual vacuum valves closed. Decontamination has begun at the far end. A commercial hypochlorite preparation was used, diluted with seawater. Small hoses were used for stanchions, hatches, and other obstructions in the more important areas, and large hoses for the main surface. They're fed from battery-powered pumps controlled by switches on deck. The final stages are not shown. The contaminated units are put into the clean boxes, and the men change into clean rig for return to Ben Lomond. Outer clothing is removed on deck. Underclothing is changed, and clean overalls are put on in change rooms below deck. You can see a man lashing a trolley in the background. Using one of the large hoses, he is giving special attention to the boom which is now stowed inboard.